I know that when I was at school, when I was sort of at this sort of primary, sort of top primary and then going into secondary school, my father developed an undiagnosed illness, and it devastated our family. It was a situation that we didn't understand, and my behaviour changed at school. What I remember though is the teacher who asked me how things were. As a family, my mother couldn't go to the school and offer confidential and very personal information to the school. She wouldn't have felt able to do that, but there was a teacher who recognised that something had changed in my family environment, and he bothered to ask what that thing was. And there are so many aspects within family life that are complex and challenging, and what we're asking for is that each school engages with a parent support worker to negotiate sometimes what are very complex and personal matters on behalf of the family and on behalf of the child, because this actually ultimately is about advocacy for children. This is about improving their outcomes. And I know from my own very personal experience that that intervention of a teacher who recognised that something was wrong, rather than penalise me because my behaviour had changed and because I was no longer, as responsive as they might have wanted, but they actually bothered to ask, what's changed for you? To me, this is a very simple call that Parentline Plus wants to make, which is if you listen to the needs of the parents, you will improve the outcomes of the children. We've had examples in schools where they were using scenarios that if a child was late, the whole class got penalised. Golden time, we're going to reduce some of your golden time. Actually, some of those children were late through circumstances which were so complex that that child was then getting penalised by their peers, and also was in a situation where they couldn't actually change their behaviour without an intervention and support. So again, a parent support worker was able to go into that situation to renegotiate with the teacher and to say, we're trying to undermine you, we're not trying to undermine the principle of boundaries and clarity, but we're simply saying there are issues here that need further consideration. I just want to sort of really commend this report. It's here, it's going to be discussed later. I know Julian's going to speak about it as well, but to say that Parentline Plus is delighted to be part of this conversation, because for us, if you support the parent, if you support the family, you undoubtedly improve the outcome for the child.
Which is why we met up with Parentline Plus last autumn to discuss bringing this report together and doing some research. And we quickly realised, of course, it isn't one-way traffic. In our surveys, some teachers said they were experiencing problems with pupils' parents, but some parents said they were experiencing problems with their children's teachers. Although the majority of parents and teachers told us that their relationships with each other were good, or very good, too many of the teachers also complained about experiencing verbal or physical abuse, and some parents are feeling patronised, sidelined, or even ignored. The fact is, we all want interventions so that parents and teachers are able to work on the same side, because we are all on the same side ultimately. Parents care passionately about the education of their children. Teachers do as well. Many schools and families work very well together, but where they do, we want to learn from them, and where they do not, we want to be able to take some of the good practice or start engaging in conversations to help those schools and those communities come together. The evidence in the report clearly demonstrates if we don't improve relationships, pupil behaviour and attainment suffers, and the well-being of parents and teachers will continue to take a hit as well. So life can be incredibly difficult for parents, but the same does apply to teachers, and we need to remember that. When writing the report, we had to ask ourselves the question, how can teachers do better to engage parents in their child's learning when they're already working excessive hours and trying to cope with all these other problems? So what are the solutions? Well, I'm keen to hear your thoughts and ideas. Though the recommendations in this report are the result of consultation with hundreds of teachers and parents, we still need to know what you think. One recommendation we have made is on teacher training. Nearly 70% of teachers in the survey said that specific training for teachers on parent-teacher relations would be effective or very effective in improving matters. Parents who were surveyed also were very supportive of this idea. And the survey comments from parents and teachers said that training should help teachers to communicate confidently with parents and interact positively with them, even when parents are upset. And I suppose for me that's something about many teachers naturally communicate well. They're used to dealing with groups of children. But for some teachers it is difficult to work with parents who may not be automatically able to communicate their concerns through language barriers, or may not have good communication skills themselves. Managing that complex emotional component and managing your own reactions in relation to it is quite a skilled job. So we're recommending that the government should critically assess the effectiveness of existing homeschool reports and agreements. And where relationships are bad, we want to strive to make them better together. Where relationships are good, let's learn from